morning, everybody. This is the first episode of the Minh Show. This is Dave MacMillan, and today I have my guest Scott Einbinder from the United States with me. How you going, Scott?
I'm good. It's about 10:30 in the morning here in LA. It's actually a rainy day, which is great. So we're not used to that, although we've been having a lot of rain recently.
Yeah. So you guys had a lot of rain during the winter time.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, there was a big rainstorm, a couple of them in LA, and I live up in the hills in Hollywood, and there was a bunch of mudslides everywhere, and it was pretty crazy. But today's rain is not so bad.
Yeah, we had similar weather. We had some freak weather um, events that occurred around the same time, but in our summer transition period as well. So, yeah, sorry to hear that you guys had it rough too. We had a pretty rough year. There's like a lot of flooding up north
Yeah,
here
same
in
same thing here. There's
Queensland.
a lot of snow going on up in the Sierras right now,
Okay.
which is good. That's where we get most of our rain. Our rain supplies the water system. The snow supplies the water system here in LA. So
Yeah, so Scott, you work as a producer in the motion picture industry, and that's how I met you. And how long have you been doing that type of work for, Scott?
wow, I mean, really, ever since I graduated from college, so well over close to 40 years now. Crazy, I can't believe it. But yeah, it's really all I've ever done is worked in the kind of film entertainment space in different capacities, but for quite a long time now.
So you were always intending to work in the film industry when you like got out of school and
Yeah, I
everything?
mean, I studied film and TV in college. That's what my degree is in, and obviously it's changed a lot over the years in terms of what that means, and my interests have changed. But I'm still in that. I'm still in the business. Yes.
When you got like into the industry, you weren't a producer yet. I think you were doing management stuff or something like that. Is that correct? Like, can you tell
Yeah,
me
I mean,
how it kind of started?
my first couple of years, I worked in the publicity and marketing side of things, I guess, as a publicist and a little bit of advertising, and then I transitioned into management representation for a while, and then that was just for a couple of years, and then I moved into producing, um, and that's kind of what I've been doing over the last 30 plus years, 35 plus years, is somehow involved in producing different aspects of it, um, and yeah, that's what I've always kind of been involved in.
That's great. So, like, nowadays, whereabouts, like, what type of projects are you doing from a producer's perspective? Like, what type of stuff have you been working
Well,
on? Whereabouts? What areas, what spaces out there in the world, jurisdictions have you been working in lately?
I'm honestly at the moment less involved in what I would call kind of the type of producing I was involved in years ago. Now I have a company called 5X Media, which I started a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. I have a couple of partners in the business, and we are involved in management of clients. We're involved in producing film and TV. Um, and it's a new company, so we are involved in uh, kind of various aspects of film and TV and entertainment. But over the last 20 plus years, I've done a lot of, in the beginning, more hands-on producing. In the last maybe 5 or 10 years, I've been more involved in financing and sales and less hands-on producing. So things have really changed over the last few years. Um, I guess it's all producing in some respect, but I'm much less involved in the type of on-set producing than I was when I first got into the business.
Okay, it can't all be the adventure type of stuff that you
Yeah,
used to
just
be
I think I kind of got bored of being on the set of films and you can't make a film unless you can raise the capital or do the sales necessary to finance the movie. And I'm not that interested in being on the set of a movie. I'm much more interested in kind of building a company and building long-term value and the library value of a company that has content that it owns and various revenue streams. So it's just my
Yeah,
interest changed, you know.
you've got to be somebody that at the on the film set that people want to like pick your mind. They want to talk to you about projects and stuff like that, right? And like I know as a singer, like when you're producing a record or something, the band comes in and everybody's doing everything, and then as a singer, you have to wait till the end just to do like your little part or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's like a lot of time to kill, and then if you're somebody who people like can speak to about their projects or something, they're probably going to be like up your nose and stuff. So it's probably better
Yeah,
for
I
you.
mean that's part of the business. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in
yeah,
investment banking and you meet somebody, they're going to come over and talk to you about that or whatever it might be. So yeah, I mean, when you're on the set of a movie or really anytime, people are always talking to you about a project they have, a screenplay they have, something they want to direct, But
yeah.
um, that's just I guess a natural element of the business. But
You intended to get into the creative space in the first place, right? So it's kind of
I
comes
mean,
with the
I've always been
territory.
more honestly in the business side of things and an idea guy, less on, working directly with writers and directors. I tend to look at uh, the creative side of things as if it's sellable, how can I sell it? Where can we sell it? Is it marketable? Is it financeable? Will it attract cast? Um, is it something worth putting time and effort into? Um,
Yeah,
as opposed to sitting with a writer or director and digging into the creative side. I've always looked at everything through the lens of business, I guess. That's always kind of been my approach and my interest naturally.
yeah. That's where your strengths are at when it comes to the industry, right? That's like where your head's at,
Yeah, I mean that's just where my head's at, and I think where
your strengths.
my strengths, my interest. I think honestly, I'm a little too ADD to sit there with a writer or a director and spend hours dissecting a script or a character. Um, there's a lot of other people who are just much better than that at me and have better skill set for that. That's just not the way my brain operates or thinks. So
So Scott, what three words best describe you? What three words would you say best describe you?
in with respect to business or just in general.
In general, just whatever.
Oh, I think, well, well, one word might be overthink. I tend to overthink everything, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But I overthink decisions, I guess, related to business. Um, I guess I'm always in the sales mode, so maybe the word sales. Um, I'm, you can't finance a project or build a business unless you can do the sales.
Yep.
And I think, as you know, probably maybe the third word would be health span. I'm kind of a fanatic about being healthy and always trying to learn more about that. So maybe health or health span. I guess those are probably the three words.
Yeah, that's awesome, Scott. And yeah, I learned a lot about fitness and just
Yeah,
like
you
getting up
are a
every
fitness
day. And
expert. I will tell you that for sure.
no,
You're
but
an
like
example
I
of
mean,
that.
I learned, but when I first met you, like my fitness regimen was like waking up and smoking a couple Marlboro Light cigarettes, and then about 2 hours later drinking a beer in
Yeah,
Saigon, right? So
yeah.
after I met you, like my attitude towards like looking after myself and health and fitness and all that kind of developed. But I learned the whole concept of just getting up every day and going and training from you. So
Well,
yeah,
I've
that's
learned a
cool.
lot about that from you, so I think it's reciprocal because you have always been an amazing example of what one can do with one's physical fitness and how they can train and build your stamina physically, mentally. So
Thanks, man.
I think it's
Yeah, I
reciprocal.
just I just like, as it's just a lot of people have like habits and stuff and things that are part of their life that they just can't get rid of, and some of those things are like really negative. But then
Sure.
fitness is a real positive thing, and then fitness gets in the same way. It just gets so ingrained into you that you can't really do things any other way. Like you don't feel right holistically, spiritually, mentally, physically at all from missing training or skipping training or something. So that's why I like
Yeah,
to
I
keep
couldn't
at
agree
it.
with you more. Once you establish the discipline, it becomes part of your just your life day to day. And if you miss a day, or you just don't feel at your best. You don't feel like you're working or executing at the top level of performance, mentally, physically, whatever it may be. So,
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
I do about a dozen boxing sessions in the gym, like kind of like cross training, but more
Sure.
boxing, like real strenuous full contact boxing and stuff. And yeah, if I get like one full week stretch in of training where like I haven't missed a step or anything, or I think I've trained in my capacity the whole time and everything like that. I just feel so good. So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
best
No, I'm
reward.
similar. I try to get exercise in every single day doing something. And think when you do that, you sleep better. When you sleep better, you recover better, you're mentally more alert, you're sharper. It's all interconnected, so
Yeah, for
they go hand
sure.
in hand.
So, Scott, like, what do you believe are the most important factors necessary to make a great movie?
Wow. I mean, to make a great movie, you need to start with a great screenplay and somebody, a director or a writer director who can tell a great story. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's storytelling and um, a vision for that storytelling. So, I mean, it's. I don't think it's one simple. I don't think it's one simple word or sentence to describe it, but there's a lot of elements that come together, but it comes down to storytelling.
What's the best thing about being a producer, about your work, the type of work that you do? What's the best thing?
I think for me, I like kind of being in a leadership role. It's just natural for me to be kind of starting something and executing something, whether
Yeah,
it's starting a business, which I did when I was 18 years old and just getting out of high school, or kind of leading people down a journey. And I guess
yeah.
that's what producing is. When you're producing a film, you're kind of at the top, and everybody has to, you have to lay out the plan and get people to execute at all levels. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so if that's the best thing about it, what's the worst thing about the type of work that you do?
Well, there's always, people you have to, naturally, as part of that, you have to kind of be able to listen to everybody, and everybody on the crew, everybody that you're dealing with on the financing side, on the distribution side, on the sales side. Everybody has got some frustration, and you have to be able to, you know, um, deal with those frustrations when you hire somebody, whether it's a company, a person, an actor. When you're always having to kind of put out fires, and
Yeah.
and that's just part of it. You're not an employee, you're an employer in some sense. So you have to be able to listen to, and sometimes it can get frustrating. Always, you know, somebody's got something they want to say, and somebody's frustrated, and you have to always kind of deal with that.
Okay, so you're managing like personalities as well as the
A
business
lot of
side of things as well.
personalities. Yeah, you're managing a lot of personalities for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've worked with a lot of big names as well, so that must be yeah, it's like a
Yeah, but it's not
tightrope that
really
you walk.
necessarily big names. I mean, you could be a person on the crew, you could be person at, a vendor you're dealing with. You could be, I mean, it's part of the process, and you have to be uh, open to knowing that that's part of your job. And even if you have investors, or if you have somebody who's you're delivering the project to, they've all got an opinion. You have to be able to listen to those opinions, and everybody looks at it through their own lens.
Okay, so like, what do you consider to be your style of leadership, Scott?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, I do try to make sure, I guess, that everybody feels like they're being listened to, because you need to get, you know, you want everybody to feel good about what they're doing, whether you're in a conference room in an office or you're on the set. You have to be able to listen so that you can make sure people are performing at their best. And I think you have to show some empathy to everybody, but you also can't get too caught up in the politics of it. And people have to know that they have a job to do, and you have to make sure that you're motivating them to do their job.
Yep. So as your style would be, how would you explain it?
I think you have to listen. You can't yell, you can't scream. Um, I don't think that does anybody any good. And there are a lot of egos involved. So you have to kind of, uh, you know, bring down when there are people who yell, people who scream, people get very mad. And by engaging in that, I don't think it does any good. You have to get what you want out of them. And I
Yeah,
think
you
just
got to
being
work out how
empathetic and
not to take
listening
it
is the best
personally, right?
thing.
You
What's
like
that?
you have to work out how not to take it personally because
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people
you
want
know,
to do a job, and everybody wants to execute. So you have to be able to um, get the best out of everybody. And if you engage in yelling or screaming and getting into fights with everybody, it doesn't do any good. So
yeah,
that's
with
just my
anything in
style, I
in
think.
life, like a lot of people do their block, and I think like it's good from a leadership perspective to understand that that's going to happen. Like some people are just going to have a no cope and stuff, but as a leader, you can't do that, right? So yeah, I completely agree
I
with
mean,
that.
there's definitely, you could be the coach of a basketball team and screaming and yelling, and that might
Hoosiers,
be
yeah,
what works for that moment or that team or those personalities.
yeah,
But I don't necessarily think that that's always, at least in my line of work and what I do, the best way to approach everything. But that's
yeah.
just me.
So do
I'm
you
a
think?
pretty I'm a pretty low key
Yeah.
person, I think, in general. So I don't enjoy getting into big shouting matches, or trying to convince people of something through yelling and screaming. I don't think it does any good.
So would leadership though then does that come naturally to you? Would you think that leadership is something that comes naturally to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm definitely a natural leader, whether it's being the chair of the board of an organization, a nonprofit, or leading any type of group of people. I think it's pretty natural for me to be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even like with doing this podcast and I've been working on my podcasting and everything and building up to here and I had that chat with you and you told me that I should start trying to do podcasts and this was before the October 7th but before that happened and
Right.
yeah, and I think it is timely for me to start doing these types of podcasting um, events and
I
stuff
think you
and
have a real
podcast.
skill at it. I think you have a great mind. You're a great communicator, and
But
you. I
thank
think
you. Like
I think
it's your
I think it's
leadership.
natural for you. So absolutely.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I really
Of course.
appreciate it. And so are you useful in a crisis yourself? If something goes down, are you useful in a crisis?
Boy, that's a good question. I guess. I mean, I think you have to be. Depends on what the crisis is, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think I can handle things pretty well. I don't know if I've ever been involved in a horrible crisis. I mean, yeah, I guess I have. I mean, some personal, some business. I think you just have to take things step by step, and if you get too emotional in a crisis, you can't solve the problem. So
Yeah, you kept pretty cool when I got arrested in Vietnam when we were on the film shoot.
yeah, I think keeping cool and
That
is
was pretty. You
extremely
guys were
important.
pretty stressed out for. We were all pretty stressed out for that short
Yeah,
amount of
I'll
time
never
for
forget that
4 or 5
experience.
hours.
Absolutely. Never forget that experience.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you over in Vietnam at that time. It's just it was unfortunate you didn't get to spend more time, but yeah, you spent the amount of time that you spent over there and the time that you spent was useful and meaningful. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
got
for everybody, even though, we didn't completely get everything we wanted out of that trip, meaning being able to, sell a TV series out of that or something along those lines. It was still a great trip, and I learned a lot and it was very meaningful to me. So absolutely.
yeah, even like what we shot anyway, like even though it wasn't sold or whatever, like the POC and all the different documentary projects that I worked on with you and stuff, they're still great. So I've got
Of
all of
course,
them,
I absolutely agree. Absolutely
and
agree.
yeah, I really I appreciate working with you with that type of
Sure.
you
No,
helping
no,
me
I
with that
agree.
type of stuff
Completely
too.
agree. Yeah.
So where are we? So what are some of the films that you've been a producer on? Like you've been at this for a long time. Like what are some of the films that you've been a producer on? Like for
Oh,
example,
wow.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I've been involved in, I don't know, probably close to about 20 movies over the years. Everyone in a little different capacity, I would say. Some more financing, some more, on set producing, some more in a little bit packaging. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of different films, some as low as under $500,000, and I've been involved in some that have been much, much bigger, some more in the development stage, some more in the, production stage. Um, I would say though, if I had to pick one film that was probably most meaningful to me, it was probably being involved in producing and kind of seeing from beginning to end the movie Killer Joe that was directed by Billy Friedkin. That was just quite an experience. It was an incredible, wild year and a half of my life, but it was, it was quite a ride. So if there was one film that stands out, that's probably it. But every film that I've been involved in some way, um, you learn and you try to use your experience to help build your career and
yeah.
lead you
Well,
where you
William Friedkin, man, like you know what, The Exorcist, The French Connection, um, Killer Joe, what he To Live and Die in L.A. And he was so good, and yeah, that's kind of how you and I started speaking again. Um, I contacted you straight after he passed away to send my condolences because
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
knew that you
remember.
worked with him,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, so Killer Joe, that was a pretty wild movie. Where did you make that movie? Where was that made?
We shot the movie in New Orleans. Um, and a good portion of it was shot on a sound stage at a studio there, and then obviously all around kind of the New Orleans area where we shot exteriors. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a bit of a legendary project because even like Matthew McConaughey himself said at the I think it was when he got the Oscar or whatever, the Academy Award, he even referenced that film like that was like the beginning of the he did Killer Joe and then he did Dallas Buyers Club and True
Right,
Detective and everything.
right.
That was like the beginning of um, before he played Joe, really, he was stuck in romantic comedy kind of roles and stuff, right?
Right, right. I mean, yeah, I think that was the film that kind of somebody called it the reconnaissance. He was an incredible actor. I've never seen somebody work so hard, and he was set on exploring new creative areas of his creative outlet, his career, his acting, and yeah, he did an amazing job. And he
What's
was
he
one of the
like
most
to work
dedicated
with?
actors I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's one of the most dedicated. You enjoyed working with him?
Yeah, I mean, he was intense. He worked hard. He worked every weekend to prepare. Yeah, he was quite dedicated to his work, the role, and rehearsing and preparing. And he was a very serious guy, and he nailed it. I think it was an amazing performance he did.
Yeah, it's a chilling performance of his, but it's pretty. Yeah, it is. It's I think it's the only. I think it's not the only because it happened in the True Detective series and in other roles that he's played since. But I think that was the first role where he kind of scared the audience. Before that, he I think it was kind of like his Robert Mitchum Cape Fear type of thing, you know. But
Yeah,
before
yeah,
that, I don't really think he
he
scared
was
people.
scary in that role, and he really he dug down deep, and he had no inhibition, and he just went for it, and he delivered, and yeah, he was great. He was great.
And young Emil Hirsch was in that as well, right? With you?
Yeah, Emil Hirsch was in it. He also, I mean, I think everybody in the cast, quite honestly, really. I think McConaughey motivated everybody else to work just as hard when they saw what he was doing, and I think it all came through in their performances. And I mean, it all started with Friedkin, and the way
Yeah, like it must have been.
he had respect of everybody, and
He was pretty charismatic, right? Like he was a very charismatic type of guy.
Friedkin, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was super charismatic. He was one of the most eloquent and I would say articulate directors I've ever seen work, not just even on the set, but when he was just talking to people and discussing elements of the film and motivating people. Yeah, he was definitely charismatic at everything he did. Um, Very
Yeah.
strong personality and a genius.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's I really love that film, The French Connection. It's one of my favorite movies. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. It's a amazing movie. Yeah, yeah.
so what's like one of the best films that you've seen of late, Scott? Have you seen anything good?
Boy, I'm trying to think. I haven't been honestly, I haven't been watching that many films recently. To be quite honest, I've been, as I started this company, I don't know, last year and a half, 2 years, I've been trying to get more into television. There's so much great television going on, and so many great actors are working in TV. I've been trying to familiarize myself more with television. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I think if uh, there's a lot of films that I respect, over the last since I started becoming, I guess, a film student. I don't know how many are from the last few years. I really probably look back at films that had more meaning to me maybe 30, 40 years ago.
Okay,
But,
what films would
I
they be
watch
then?
films honestly
What
to be
films in the past?
entertained.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What films in the past would you say like 30, 40 years ago that had the impact on you to want to try to be able to get into the industry, would you say? Like, are you into all the
I
Scorseses
mean,
and all that
I
type of
would
stuff? Or
I remember when I was in college writing a paper about Apocalypse Now. I always thought that film was just mind-blowing, and I've seen it so many times. Um, I think that
yeah,
was a great, great film on so many levels. The acting and just, what Coppola did with it and the journey, and that was always a film, I guess, that I chose to write a paper on in college. Um, I remember studying I took an Italian film class in college, and we watched a lot of obviously Fellini films, and I think La Strada and Eight and a Half always were very impactful for me. Um, and um, I, I think when you're a film student, you're watching a lot of movies and learning about film, and you're thinking about them in a different way than you do when you are maybe later in life just going to uh, to a movie theater to watch a film or watching it on television at home. I think you don't, at least for me, don't think through them in such a critical eye that you do when you're in college studying film and having these discussions in a different way. Um, And I mean, there's so many amazing films um, that come out, every year for different reasons that are uh, that are both entertaining, that are impactful. Maybe it's the person you're watching it with. My son, who's 13, has become a film aficionado, and sometimes films I just watch with him
That's
um,
awesome, man.
become, my son loves La La Land, and we've
Oh,
watched it
cool.
many times together, and I've learned to appreciate it because I see it through his eyes, in a different way. So, um,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've spoken to you about this before in the past about when it comes to filmmaking and being involved in the industry and watching stuff and how it's important that all the production stuff has to be done right because it's hard to once you've been working in production and everything, it's hard to enjoy something when you can see like the stitches, where you can see like the seams
yeah,
and everything.
yeah. I mean, that part of it, honestly, I don't. When I'm watching a movie, I just watch the movie. I don't think about all the
Yeah,
production
yeah,
stuff. It's not my area of interest or expertise. Is the production side of it. Um, I try to just watch a movie and enjoy it.
yeah,
I don't really think about all that. Obviously, maybe if it's a big, I don't know, visual effects movie, and that might be a little different for me. That's probably not my type of movie that personally that I really, I would say, get pulled into. I think when there's a great just a movie with great acting, great characters, you just get pulled in. And I think that's the advantage of watching a movie in a movie theater, that you're in a dark movie theater, and you're just focused only on that screen. And I think, like I'll give you an example. When um, my son and I went this past summer to watch the new Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, and I thought it
yeah,
was fantastic. And you're just in the movie theater, and you're just sucked into it. And I didn't think about anything else. I was just pulled in and enjoyed the ride. I think if you watch that movie at home, it's probably a different situation because you don't feel like you're in that same space. Um, and and I think it does make a difference being in a big dark movie theater when you're surrounded by just the great sound, and it's almost like a dreamlike situation. So
yeah, yeah. That's exactly like what everybody's going there to try to get a piece of, right?
for
And
sure,
like
absolutely.
when drive-through movies were a thing, it used to be easier to get it. But yeah. So you've made like a lot of action movies, really. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in a bunch of genre movies. It's not necessarily something that I chose. It just happens to be what we were able to sell. And I don't think for me, action is necessarily what I'm drawn to. I mean,
Yeah,
if you watch the movie Heat, great movie by Michael Mann, there's a lot of action, but it's not the action that draws me in. It just happens to be I've been able to sell certain movies, and that's what sells. Whether it's action or horror, or sometimes, you're able to deliver a certain type of movie, and somebody wants to make another movie in the same genre with you. And
yeah.
it's not necessarily my personal favorite, but it's just what we were able to sell at the time. So
Yeah, well, everybody here in Australia, where I'm from, are familiar with the Sniper 2 and the Sniper Legacy, the Tom Berenger films that you're a producer on. What's it like working with Tom Berenger? He's the legend, eh? That guy.
I mean, yeah, Tom's had a time in his career where he was definitely a huge leading man, and I think that's an iconic role for him that he developed and executed so well. And I think he's probably as known for those roles as any other roles that he's performed. Um, and he happened to be great for those roles because he happens to be somebody who really respects the Marines and the military, and it's part of who he is, I think, in his personal life. And I think those roles were meaningful for him. And he's an amazing actor as well, and um, he's definitely iconic for that role or in those movies. Uh, and
He's
couldn't
been
say
at it for a long time too, eh? Like it's like um, in the '90s and in the 2000s, and he was playing the sniper character. But like I think he Dogs of War, that must have been like the late '70s or something like that, maybe '79 or '80 or something, with Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I
That
mean, when
film.
he was a young actor, he was
Yeah,
quite
he's doing
astonishing.
those, but he was doing the same type of roles like back in those days and stuff. So yeah, he's been at it
Yeah,
for a long
yeah, yeah,
time.
definitely. I don't know. I haven't been in touch with him in a while, quite honestly. It's been a few years, but he was always very, very serious about his work, very committed, and the sniper roles are something he really took seriously, and it was meaningful to him for sure.
Yeah, he's somebody who's very patriotic about the U.S. military, right? So
Oh, I would say so. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, last week we were supposed to catch up and do this earlier, but I had, I've been doing some podcasts and everything, not my own podcast, but
sure.
just like I've been doing guest appearances on some podcasts in America, some blue state stuff, some red state stuff, whatever,
Mm,
whoever wants me on there.
sure.
And these people that work in the US government or whatever, I don't know exactly who they work for, but they contacted me and they wanted me to go over and do the MIA POW work that you
Sure.
type of stuff that you and I were doing before. You
Mm.
worked with me before on doing, and um, yeah, it was a hard decision for me. But I was meant to be going. I was meant to be in Vietnam this week, but I decided not to do it because I just kind of all of the different. I just looked at the whole situation, and I just didn't really. If there's something that's like political or something that I don't know, that there was a helicopter crash situation. This lady's brother went missing, and then part of his remains were found, and the part of the remains that were found was sent to Arlington National Cemetery and
Really.
buried with honors. And then there was part of him that wasn't recovered, and
Mm.
then I found out that they wanted me up there to ask the locals to dig up a sacred tree and all this.
Mm.
It's just like, and I was just thinking, I just had memories of when things went sideways when we were in Vietnam, and I was like,
I don't
oh
blame
god,
you. Yeah, yeah.
I
It's been
don't
a
want to
while
go
since
through
you.
that again. I'm not
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to go
I
through
don't
it
blame you.
again. Like, yeah, but it's just like what you were
I like to
saying.
see you exploring this new path of your. I think you have a big future as a podcaster, as a host, and
Oh, thanks,
I
man.
think uh, I think it's a good journey you're starting, and I see success for you down the line in this new time in your life.
Yeah, I've been at it for a while. I just think in the past I've gotten in trouble with podcasting, but I had like a guest that was calling in, and he was just deliberately screaming crazy stuff over
Mm.
the stream and everything, and
Sure.
it's just like, if I just didn't have everything put together to and as I lost my dad, I lost my sister, a whole bunch of different stuff has been
Right.
going on. But I've being in front of the camera and broadcasting and everything is something that I love doing, and
You're a
you know,
natural.
but the thing is you've helped me develop that, and podcasting's. I've been speaking into a microphone since I was like 7. My older brother, he
I
was a
know you
radio
have,
announcer, and
for
he
sure.
he encouraged me to do it. So, um, yeah, let me see. I've got some more questions for you here.
Of course.
Um, so yeah, did you like working in Vietnam with when you came over there? What
Oh,
can you
I
tell
I
me
enjoyed
about
it
some of it?
immensely. I would, my time there was too short, and not just working there, but being there and in general, and, I thought the people were wonderful and the energy, the food. Obviously, we had one difficult work experience over there, the day you talked about earlier when you were, uh, arrested, um, but in general, I think my time there was incredible, and I hope I can go back there again, and
Yeah, like
explore parts
when
of
I
the
was
country I didn't
arrested,
get to
Scott.
see.
Yeah, like when I was arrested, we just got to clarify. It's like I didn't like rob anybody or jack anybody or anything like that. I was the on-screen talent for a documentary that we were making, and then the people that we were hiring as our production team, the guy that was in charge of the team, he had schizophrenia or something like that. He was hearing voices and all this stuff, and then when we stopped for a lunch stop, they disappeared with all the equipment, and then we end up going after them, and then we end up getting pulled over and all this stuff. But
Yeah, it was,
it
for
was
sure. I mean,
crazy.
they stole all of our equipment, and it was
High speed
quite a
pursuits
day.
and yeah,
It was quite a
out
day,
in the
but
countryside.
you were quite heroic, I have to say, in what happened, you know?
Oh no, well, I would think that now, like, yeah, I look back on that and think that was quite heroic. But like, this is the thing about them wanting me to go over and do that type of stuff. Now I'm looking back on that, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm too old to do that. It's just I could do the actual work, but it's also like this company. They were like, we want you to go over there and represent us, and you were in charge and everything. I said, okay, well, I'm going to use Bobby Quatch, and I'm going to do things like, here's a proof of concept of the documentary that I made about the stuff that I was doing. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to use the same guy out of the documentary. But you've got to like let me kind of be the lead person on this, because you saw me on a podcast and then put
Sure.
all this stuff together, this agency type of thing, based on what you heard about what I was saying in the podcast. But it's just, yeah, it's best now for me to like, I still want to go back to Vietnam because there's a lot of business opportunities there, a lot of film industry opportunities as well. And with me specifically, since those photographs of that raid with the policeman and the robber
Sure.
with the sword at his neck, since that has went viral over in Vietnam, a lot of people have been talking about, like, oh, that, that could be a film, or like a whole bunch of different. I have a whole bunch of really good opportunities in Vietnam that I don't want to compromise with, like anything that's like too political, unless it's got something to do with dogs, or as you and I in the past have spoken about advocacy for bears in Vietnam, or tigers, or all different types of animals, not just the dogs. And
No,
that's
no,
one
we
thing.
talked a lot about the
Yeah.
wildlife and what was going on there with people, um, trying to catch wildlife to harvest some of their organs, or to kind of uh, you know deal with kind of the local lore of how these body parts of these animals could be used in certain types of local medicine, and it's a terrible thing. And you had a mission to stop a lot of that, and to really make sure that the wildlife is protected.
Well, that's another reason why I don't go out there, and I don't like want to throw myself out in front of throw myself under the bus, like, because we did Hope for Dogs. I made that with you, and that documentary was a complete game changer in Vietnam when it comes to animal
Sure,
rights and dog
sure, sure.
rights, and the way that the police actually prosecute those type of crimes. And um, yeah, so to me, I think, like, I've got all these different documentaries and stuff behind me, and people go, oh, come do this, help us with that. It's like, can you, essentially they're asking you to go and prove yourself to them in some capacity. And it's like, I don't feel like I have to do that with the type of things that I do anymore. Like, I'm no longer at the stage when I'm the 27-year-old action man guy with the guy with the sword or whatever. I can
No,
do that like every day, but then it just turns out to be like you're getting in trouble with the same
sure,
type
sure,
of person, like in a different, just different person, like
sure.
different skin, same type of attitude. But Yeah, so we worked on that film project before, and we didn't end up getting it made, but it was a good process for me.
For everybody involved, it was memorable, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah,
and we all
it
learned
was.
and benefited from it, even though we weren't able to get it sold.
Um, so you've met like a lot of movie stars, Scott, in your life, right? So as you said, you've been
I don't know. I don't
involved
know.
in
I'm just not. I mean, I've worked with a bunch of great actors. I don't know if they're all how many are I don't know what even constitutes a movie star. It's not something I really think about, or just they're people like everybody else who happen to have had certain success in their career. But I don't know if that how meaningful that is. I don't really think much about it, quite honestly. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I've worked with a lot of when you make movies, you work with a lot of actors, and some of them um, early in their career, some later in their career, some in the sweet spot of their career. Um, so
you work with
yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson, right? And
I
people like
did. I
that.
mean, I did. I was involved in a movie with him. I never met him. I
Yeah, yeah,
wasn't on the set of that movie. The company I was running at the time, we co-financed that movie. So that was a
yeah,
movie I was not hands-on with. We were involved in the financing and the distribution of that movie. So
yeah.
I will say though, he's an amazing actor, and I thought his performance in the movie we did with him, Hitman's Bodyguard, was memorable. His comedic timing is just amazing.
So whereabouts did you make that movie, Hitman's Bodyguard? Was that in the UK or?
It was shot in the UK. It was shot in Europe. It was shot in Bulgaria, different parts of Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, you've made a fair few movies in like Eastern Europe, right? Kind of
Yeah, we've
Bulgaria
shot
places.
movies in Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary. Um, I think those are the three places in Eastern Europe where I've worked and made movies. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hitman's Bodyguard movies, they seem like they've went pretty well, like they're pretty good, pretty cool kind of modern action movies.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was quite successful. The second one we were not involved in. Um, uh,
Okay.
so I can only speak to the first one, but it was quite successful worldwide and led obviously to a sequel. Um, and two big movie stars in that movie. I was at the time um, partnered with a group in China, and that's how we got involved by co-financing that movie. And we our group distributed the movie in China, um,
Yeah.
and uh, so that's the element that I was involved in. Um, Not
What's
so
it like
much.
working in China? Did you like working over in China?
There's like anywhere. I think it's about the people, less the place. I met a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends, met a lot of interesting people. Um, like like everywhere you work in the world, I think it's about the people and the quality of the people and the trust in the people and the honesty of the people. I think anywhere you work, you could find people who are less honest or less trustworthy, and that goes for anywhere in the world, not just. I don't know if it singles out China. Um,
Yeah.
China has you know amazing amazing people, and it has certain people who maybe are less amazing, but that goes for anywhere in the world, not just that can happen in the United States too. Obviously they're working in a little different system of government and the way businesses operate. um, but from my experience, the people that I got to know in China generally were terrific and made some good friends there. And I haven't been there in a while, but I hope to go back there again soon. We did do on another movie I was involved in. We did do some shooting in China and also in Hong Kong. So
Awesome. Yeah, those countries are great because there's just so many people there and there's just so many different things going on. some of the things that people started doing them like thousands of years before, and they're still doing them and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, they
it's
have a long
cool.
history, and their ancient cultures are still kind of prevalent in certain aspects of their current life, even though it's a very, very modern country with you know gigantic skyscrapers and amazing technology and some of the most futuristic uh, kind of cities in the world. But there's also um, in countries like that that have a long history of culture and civilization and philosophy, and um, there's still that part of it still is prevalent in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it works. The East works a little bit better than the West in some ways, but yeah, the Hitman's Bodyguards, that's a cool movie, and just as I've mentioned to you before, there was a bit of controversy over here with the guy that we were making. We were working on a project with. He got on a podcast, and he ran you and me down and stuff, and was talking about that Hitman's Bodyguard and all that stuff. And yeah, I just want to clarify, like that project that you have there has got nothing to do with the script that I was working on about that guy. But interestingly enough, I entered the our script in the Sunny Coast Showdown,
Hmm.
which is the film festival here,
Hmm.
and yeah, and yeah, so the policeman that that script is about, the elderly policeman that got done for murder.
Hmm.
Well, he passed away 3 weeks ago,
Oh,
and
really? Wow.
since that
Interesting.
happened, the police tried to get to him when he was on his deathbed, and Roger Rogerson, and they were trying to speak to him about details concerning the murder of particular individuals, and the murders of those particular individuals are in that script. But um, yeah, it was interesting to
Hmm.
work on that project, and after that, I did maybe 2.5 years of training with that guy, and yeah, it was really cool working with him. And I know he doesn't speak to me anymore or whatever, but I just wanted to mention that,
That's
just
okay. That's okay.
clarify those two things, because
Sure.
I don't like
Sure.
getting called, like I just don't like getting called a ripoff or whatever,
Yeah,
saying that I
yeah. I don't blame you.
whatever.
I don't blame you at all.
So Scott, as a Jewish person, how have you been coping with the increased like rise in anti-Semitism of late?
It's unfortunate. There's just a lot of turmoil and misunderstanding in the world today, and I have to say I'm not. It hasn't affected me personally that much where I live here in LA. And I'm aware of it. Uh, we my family does is involved in the community of a local synagogue, um, and there's obviously been much more increased security at that synagogue, and
Yeah,
so I'm aware of it in that way generally, but in a day to day life, it's I'm not affected by it that much. It's sad. It's unfortunate, um, and it's not just anti-Semitism. Obviously, there's a lot of division, in the country and the world in general, and it's just unfortunate that it plays out the way it does. And hopefully, things start to turn around soon.
so what was your initial reaction to the October 7th attacks?
I mean, it's a horrible, horrible situation, and
Yeah,
it's just it's there's no easy way to describe it. It's very emotional, very scary, um, and I have quite a few friends uh, in who live in Israel. Um, uh, so it's a tough time and very very emotional, and how to compartmentalize the compart we'll change the word.
compartmentalize,
Yeah, that's the word.
compartmentalize.
Have to kind of figure out how to put those different elements together of the emotions at the moment and what's going on politically and what's going on for humanity. So it's not an easy situation, and I think we go through times where we get emotional. Sometimes we try to intellectualize it, try to understand it politically, look at it as human beings. There's no easy way to describe it, at least for me.
I think before the attacks happened, Scott, there are a lot of people that were in denial of the fact that there's an underlying anti-Semitism in some communities in the world, in some populations and some communities in the world. And since this happened, and I used to say it before too, I used to say whenever the difference between my friends that are on involved in some religions or some political movements or whatever is, if something happens in the Muslim world, I'll see somebody say, sorry to see that, Hashem bless them or something. But if something happens to Jewish people, I see like on social media, people from the Muslim world saying, Allah Akbar and all this type of stuff against the Jewish people. So I don't know. I just now and then, once this October 7th thing happened, then all of these voices around the world that people who usually wouldn't be talking about that type of stuff, they've chimed in, and it's scary to see how much hatred there is out there.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, it's scary to see the hatred on both sides. It's
Yeah.
scary to see, people on both sides being killed or being injured or losing
it's
their
a volatile situation.
It's a volatile situation. It's been going on for a long, long time, and this was obviously. I don't expect it to end anytime soon. And
So what message would you
that's a
send
whole
to
nother
the leaders?
conversation we could have. And
what message would you send to the leaders of the Middle East? Would you have any message to send to them?
I think they have to have open hearts, and they have to take their think about people as human beings, and think about the future, and can't look at the past.
Yeah. So, how does your religion treat members of other religions, and like, what are the main tenets of, would you say, the main fundamental principles of Judaism, the way that you look at it?
I'm not an expert in the Jewish religion, so I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Jewish religion. But I think you have to treat your neighbors and treat everybody with respect as human beings. I think that's, to me, what it comes down to. You just have to be an ethical, moral person and treat everybody with respect. And I definitely am not going to speak on behalf of the Jewish religion, because even in any religion or with any group of people, you can have different philosophies or different.
I'll speak on behalf of Australia with a beer in my hand, but I don't drink. Haven't had a drink in 9 years.
Yeah.
No worries, no worries. I know that those questions are a little heavy, but I just wanted to let you see what you can come back with that. So, are there any misconceptions about yourself that you wish that people wouldn't make?
Misconceptions about me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how people think about me or don't think about me. I don't really worry about it too much either. People can have their own. I'm not a public personality, so I'm not sure how many people have certain conceptions about me. I think, generally, people who know me, I hope, have good things to say.
Awesome, man.
I don't think I've ever necessarily harmed anybody. So hopefully everybody who knows me and knows me for who I am, thinks well of me.
So what do you wish you were better at doing? Like, what is there anything you wish you were better at doing?
Wow, that's a big question. I'm always trying to find more time to to learn and treat other people with respect. I think we can always do a better job of that. Every person can do a better job of that. Listening, um, uh, learning, communicating. I think everybody can. None of us are perfect, so um, I think we can all improve ourselves, and it's a journey. And I don't think we ever get to the point in our lives where we're just the status quo is as good as we're going to get. So I think we always have to strive to be a better person, a better human being, a better husband, a better father, a better brother, all of that. I don't think there's just one thing.
So, Scott, do you think, therefore, that do you think everybody has the capacity to be a leader?
I don't know if everybody, I mean, I think everybody has the capacity to be a leader in some way. It may not be a leader of a company or a group of people. It may be a leader of a group of friends or a family, or, to take charge of a situation. Um, so I think being a leader can be, you could be a thought leader. You don't have to be. You could be a leader by espousing certain points of view, or trying to right wrongs, or you could be a leader by helping homeless people. There's so many ways to be a leader. It means many things. I don't think there's one way to be a leader.
So, what's one mistake that you keep on repeating in your life,
Wow.
or in things that you do? It can be anything. It can just be in general, or it could be anything. Could be in the kitchen. Could be anything.
Wow. Probably, uh, I think we can all be better listeners, and listening to what friends, family, anybody, you know, um, needs, and how to help them. And I think you can't. I think being a good listener is something that's hard for most people to really listen, not just superficially, but to listen to what somebody needs deep down. And that's not an easy thing to do, because you have to have patience, and I think that's important.
That's an excellent answer, man. So, when all is said and done, what do you hope your major contribution in this life will be, Scott?
Wow, that's a big, deep question. You know, I hope that my contribution is that my son is learns from me, and can exemplify the things that I have taught him. And I maybe the way forward for him is something that he's learned from me, and he can help the rest of the world in his own little ways, and he can succeed based upon what he's maybe learned from me, through example, through not just through me telling him to do something, or teaching him, but just the way of life, and that he can go on and live a meaningful life based upon things he's learned from me.
Oh, awesome. That's the answer is love. Then, so what's your favorite number? And do you have any? Do you have a lucky number?
Wow. My wife has asked me that, and my son has asked me that. I don't think I really do. Um, I've never really thought about having a lucky number. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think like in China and Vietnam and stuff, it's more common. And yeah, everybody over in there and has a lucky number. So
Yeah, honestly,
just
I've
wondering.
never really thought about having
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lucky number. I don't bet. I don't think about numbers in that way.
yeah. I understand. I'm the same in
Maybe,
that
yeah, I don't
way.
know. I've never really thought about that, honestly.
What actions in your life will have the longest lasting consequences?
I think having a son. I think having uh, having a son who will hopefully go on, as I just mentioned before, to live a great life, and hopefully do, live his life based on some things that he's learned from me, and hopefully he can continue down that path. I think that's probably, I think that's the greatest thing we can all do.
How important is it, Scott, to be nice, kind, and grateful in life?
Oh, I think there's nothing more important. Maybe also nice, kind, grateful, and love. I would add to that, but I think there's probably nothing greater than that. At the end of the day, once we're no longer here on this earth, that's all people are going to hopefully learn from us and remember us for.
So, are you living your life purpose, or are you still searching?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I don't think we're ever stop searching. Um, I don't think we're ever. We always want to achieve more, whether that's personally or in business or with our family. I think that we're hopefully never satisfied, and we can always do more and want to achieve more.
Awesome, man. So, that's all the questions that I have, and yeah. So, thanks a lot for joining me this morning, and giving me your time to be able to do this podcast. And yeah, answers have been really fascinating, and it's been really
Oh, my
great
pleasure.
speaking with you,
My
Scott.
pleasure. Is the light coming up a little bit in your background? Do I see that?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's what's
I could
going
just
on.
see
Yeah,
the light through the window. If that's the window, I think looks like this has
yeah.
got a
So
little lighter
it's
back there.
about 5:42 now, and we started like an hour
So the
ago. So
light's
yeah,
just coming up. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool. Cool.
yeah, man. So do you have anything
No,
you want
Dave,
to add?
listen, I hope I hope you continue to on this journey, and continue to strive for more. And I think you're a leader, and I think that you have so much to offer. And I hope you continue down the path and find success in whatever you want to do. I have the utmost respect for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think I'm going to stick with the writing thing.
I
I've
think you
been
should. I think
working
you're
on
a
a book.
creative guy, and I think I think you have a lot to offer.
Thanks a lot, Scott, and thank you for your time. And thank you for your
Anytime,
patience and
anytime.
time in the past and everything, man.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. Have a good
Be well.
morning.
We'll talk soon, Dave.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. See you later.